Hey there, today we're looking at Mysteries of the Multiverse, a zine made by Dragon Peak Publishing for Mutant Crawl Classics. This is going to be a bit of a shorter video because even though the zine does actually have a lot of stuff in it, a lot of it is tables, so unless I just start reading it out to you in a nice ASMR voice, we can go through this pretty quick. So I'm really bad at reading Kickstarter campaigns properly. I thought I was just getting a scenario, but it comes with the scenario as well as, like I said, many tables and little entries for any sort of post-apocalypse games you might need. So even though it comes first in the book, I'm going to cover the scenario last because I want to avoid spoilers, and since the rest of the book isn't really spoilers, I don't think, I thought I would just do that one last, and then we can get through the entire book first, and then I'll let you know when we get to spoilers. Firstly, the zine has ideas on how to bring DCC patrons into your MCC setting and how to do it. Next, it has ways you can incorporate other Goodman Games products into your setting. Each of the products listed has at least one hook for how you could bring it into your world. I think most have 2 or 3 though. I really like this because it doesn't just cover Goodman Games products you probably already heard of, it also covers third-party ones that could probably use some more coverage, like Eon Ancient Greece, Starcrawl, Two Worm, Two Furious, and 11 others. I hope to see other indie devs do this. It's strangely wholesome. Next on the list are the geographical features and anomalies. These are really cool as you have 12 different ones, and they cover a bunch of weird zones you might populate your world with. There are some classic ones like photonic and fungal regions, but then there are some real weird ones like neon zones and meat zones. All 12 have Radburn effects, mutation effects, and a special element to them. For example, the meat entry has disgusting creeping meat disease that causes the victim's hair to grow as thin, fetid meat. Personally, I find it convenient when my homies grow extra rations on their scalp. Next, we have Freak Weather, which has 7 entries. This is exactly what it sounds like, as it covers the weird-ass weather your gonzo setting might have. There's some really fun ones here, even if they do sound like the titles of B-movies. You have stuff like Cryo Twister, Sinkhole Quake, and Cosmic Lightning. They all have their own mechanical effects so the players get caught up in them, and some of them are super mean, and I love it. These work as good environmental encounters, especially if you're adding to a fight, but they could also work really well as buffers. They might see a radiation blizzard in the distance and just go, fuck it. Next, we have the 4 entries in the mutagenic mustaches and tech toupees. Now, I'm gonna be fully honest, these aren't super my vibe because they go a little bit too far into the silly territory for me. However, these totally fit a lot of MCC's and DCC's tone, and they go off of the same rules as the mustaches found in the DCC Annual Volume 1. And who knows, my mood's always changing on the things I'm into, so I might use these or the mustaches from the annual at some point in the future if I'm feeling like it. As it stands, I am really glad these are here for the people who want them, and I do unironically like the strobe hawk and the living chin. Also, the art piece for the living chin is so fucking funny.
That's right. Shop smart. Shop S-smart. You got that?
So the next 8 pages are settlement and ruin generators, which are really, really nice. These are great for fleshing out settlements as well as creating areas for your players to explore. There's some fun tables here for interesting villagers and local legends, and some of the entries are actually genuinely unique and really creative. Now, in terms of you running a sandbox game, these aren't going to be the be-all end-all. However, for a quick generation of like a settlement or a location, this is great, mostly because it's a zine, so it's easy to find the page you're looking for if you don't have one handy. It's also good for just general inspiration maybe the night before when you're doing prep, or if you quickly need a settlement or ruin for your players to explore if they go off a different way than you're expecting. You're probably going to need a lot more than this if you're doing a whole sandbox game. There's other books out there that you can take for giant generators of all these different NPCs and locations and other stuff. But as a resource to have at the table because it's so small, it's a really nice little thing to have. So I do recommend it for that. And last before we cover the scenario is the bandits page, which is just 2 nice little tables with some flavorful bandit ideas. Honestly, all this great stuff is pretty much worth the price of admission alone, but we also have a pretty nice scenario as well to go with it. However, before we get into spoilers, I have to come clean with something. I actually ran this using DCC, not MCC. But I do have a good reason, I swear. The main reason being is that MCC does not have much support online, especially when it comes to Foundry. I think I checked, there wasn't even a Mutant Crawl Classics game system that I could click on to use as a base. I'm fairly sure you have to go off of the DCC base, or there just isn't one really. And also, this still isn't really spoilers just yet, but the premise is that the players are starting off in a primitive village, so the DCC heroes do actually kind of work pretty well with this premise for this one. So I just felt like I had to be honest there, because I didn't get a true MCC experience here, but I think it's close enough because the rules for MCC and DCC are so close, and due to the origins of the players, it just seemed to work out. Alright, this is your spoiler warning. From here on out, I'm gonna be spoiling this scenario, so you better get the hell out of here if you don't want it spoiled. Get out. And now our feature presentation is a level 1 adventure by Darren Campbell. I'm going to try and keep it short, but essentially the plot is that there is an AI rogue called Feature that's taken over the body of a damaged robot. This damaged robot has found an old drive-in theater with a quantum reactor. Feature has become obsessed with this drive-in theater and wants to spread its lights across the wasteland. But as I previously mentioned, the quantum reactor is very unstable and it could go off and probably destroy this entire part of the region. So it's a bit of an issue with this unhinged robot who's currently obsessed with this whole thing and using this machine it might not fully understand. The player start is that one of the village elders speaks of a vision that the forbidden area to the west known as the Blasted Plains holds a hidden power that needs to be found. And the group is sent out to find out what it is. The Blasted Plains is the travel part of the scenario, which can stretch out the game if you want to. It does say in the book that it takes about 2 days to get from the village to the drive-in theater, but you can make that longer or shorter depending on your needs. You can stretch this out to a much bigger game, or keep it as short as possible for like a one-shot. The dungeon is the drive-in theater, as well as the buildings you normally find at a drive-in theater, such as the bathrooms, the concession stand, as well as the projection booth. I won't go over everything, but there's a lot of fun stuff here. The cars are filled with essentially what are radiation zombies that will attack if they're disturbed by the PCs. One monster I like is this ooze that's made up of like old fizzy soda that will squeeze out of the nozzles if they disturb it and try and like get some soda out of the soda machine. And there's an old hot dog cooker that's so backed up with gunk that's created a high pressure system that essentially gives the players a hot dog gun at their disposal, which they of course loved. There's even more stuff than that, but I'm going to leave that as surprises for anybody who actually grabs this. I feel like you already know if this is for you or not. And I was genuinely chuckling when I was reading some of the entries in this scenario. Some of them are really funny, and the author's way of writing has some little jokes here and there that are really, really nice. My players and I had a really fun time just laughing at dumb jokes and things we were seeing, as well as me nearly killing them several times. So it was that perfect tonal balance that you want with DCC MCC, laughing and having a good time, and being deadly as fuck. So the assumed path is that from exploring around, they'll eventually come across Feature at some point, probably in the projection booth. Feature will probably be pretty hostile towards them if he thinks they're going to mess with his plans. However, I played him a little bit more crazy and obsessed and not that concerned with them at first. If they were outwardly trying to see if they could destroy his stuff, he was going to turn on them. But I do think he is kind of fun if you can play him as potentially somebody who can be talked to, because the players might not know anything about quantum reactors if they're just villagers of a random tribal land. So they might actually want to help him out depending on how you want to play him. The map is solid and pretty simple for the drive-in, as it should be. You know, it has a few maps for the buildings and it has a main map for the overall area. If I did have one criticism though, is that I do wish that the map numbers were a little bit more easy to see. I do understand they're trying to make the numbers sort of blend in with the map to sort of fit with it aesthetically, but however, I probably would have preferred something a little bit more like this so that you can more easily read out the numbers, because even though it's not like a huge map and there's not that many locations, in play I did have a few times where I had to like sort of quickly double check and sort of take like a couple seconds to be like, wait, oh, this is the number. Okay, there we go. Because I think I messed up once or twice. But outside of that, it's a very easy to read map, which I really, really appreciate. This entire scenario gives me huge Fallout 2 vibes, and I know it's a little bit cliche at this point for anybody to call anything slightly post-apocalyptic Fallout-like, but I really did get a lot of Fallout 2 vibes from this game. The village in Blasted Plains reminds me a lot of the opening as you leave the village in that game and go across that sort of just horrible kind of wasteland, and the drive-in theater is a classic retro staple of the 50s. Plus, a lot of names like Really Butter, Butter-like but legally distinct from Real Butter Substance Dispenser is very reminiscent of the sardonic humor of the Fallout franchise. Overall, a solid little location that works really well as either a one-shot or a campaign starter. I really had a lot of fun running this for my friends, and I do really need to finally run MCC at some point, and this was supposed to be my first time running it, but I ended up just getting lazy, so I'll have to do it again at some point, but using MCC. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. This was a really rad zine. Anyway, have a happy new year, and stay safe out there.